Alistair Joseph Elias. I hail from the Caribbean island of Grenada, known as the Spice Isle. I come from the village of Grove. I basically grew up in a three-dimensional religious family: Seventh-day Adventist, Catholic, and Anglican, the Church of England. And I went to the Seventh-day Adventist Church for a while, and then around the early teen years, I start going with my grandmother to the Catholic Church. I never thought of being a priest or anything for years, although my passion was professionally I wanted to be a politician or a businessman. So that's why in high school my focus was on business. So religious life or priesthood was never a thought in my mind until I was late 19, early 20s, when I went to a pilgrimage to Our Lady of Fatima at the shrine of Battle Hill in Grenada, and an old lady says to me, "Are you a priest?" And I said, "Are you crazy?" And a little way distance, she come back and she said, "Are you thinking of becoming a priest?" And at that point I was frustrated because I never thought of being a priest. I never wanted to be a priest. And I lived the way she wore, and I went all the way to the back. And then that comes over, the pilgrimage was very nice. And about a week or two later, I went to visit my grandmother, and she was watching the death news, and that time death news was a new thing to the TV. And I saw the lady, and I said, "But that's the lady that wanted me to be a priest." And it just stayed with me for a while. So while I was teaching at the St. Rose Modern Secondary School, where I attended as a student myself, I started to think about that. What is my life? Is to be, what is the purpose of my life? And I started to think about that. And then I started to talk to the Sisters of the South and those things. And I never really understand the difference between priests. I thought all priests was priests. And one of the things, Sister asked me to do a religious education course, which was not my specialty.
Yeah.
And
what did you teach? What were you teaching?
I did business, and I also with the library and other things. Yeah. And so she asked me, so I had to do a lot of preparation for that religious course. And the topic she wanted me to teach on is religious orders in the church. And I had no idea what that means. She says to me, "Look on EWTN," because that's the station she always watched. So I went on the computer and I typed in EWTN, and the first thing that came up, religious order of the day, the Congregation of the Most Holy Redeemer, the Redemptorists, working with the poor and most abandoned. And I said, working with the poor and most abandoned. And that's the phrase that stuck with me. So about 2 years after, when I decided, I think God is calling me to something more, the phrase kind of stick with me, working with the poor and most abandoned. And then that's when I started to talk to the sister, and she said, "Well, I know the Redemptorists, so I could put you in touch with them." And that's how I get in touch with the Redemptorists. And the first Redemptorist I ever met was Brother Sam.
Yeah.
And, coming from Grenada, I'll say something that might be controversial, but I say it anyway. When my friend told me that there is a Redemptorist coming to Grenada to visit, if I would like to meet him, I said to him, "Sure, why not?" And then he told me 2 days later that he's here and he's living in the apartment. So I went to the apartment after work one evening, and as I walking up the stairs, I see this short, bald-headed black man coming down the stairs. And I said, "Good afternoon," and I went inside and I asked the guy that was there, "I come to see the Redemptorist," and he says, "He's on the stairs." I said, "No, I only see a short, bald black man." Because my idea, when you hear about authority in the priesthood and in those things, they always think about a white, because that's how we were brought up. So it was funny because he was right behind me when I was saying it, and we laugh about it. And that changed my idea of, the priesthood, the religious life. But what really draws me to the Redemptorists is the phrase, or the theme, working with the poor and most abandoned. And in 2002, I left Grenada, February 19, 2002, to join the Redemptorists in St. Croix.
What advice would you give to someone who is considering a vocation to the Redemptorists?
Well, I would tell them, give it a shot. Because one of the things I remember when I started to think about priesthood after the encounter with the old lady is that, how do you know that God is calling you to this? how do I know? And I always say, if I go into something, I want to be sure this is what I want to do. I want to give it my all. And for 2 years, it takes me to realize that you have to take a first step. Because if you just sit down and say, I want it to be sure, I want it to make sure this is it, I want a miracle to happen, a voice to tell me, you would still have that doubt, you would still have that concern. Is it really? But I would say to them, take the first step and allow God to do the rest. Because God helps, I believe firmly that God helps those who help themselves. From my own faith journey, from my own life experience, I can testify that God helps those who help themselves. You have to make the decision to say, well, I am going to take the risk to give my life to God.
Yeah.
And allow God to do the rest. Once you take that first step, God will do the rest. And I believe that, and I'm convinced this is my story, and I sure it would be the story for other young people. So I will encourage them to take that step and to allow God and to allow others, because God placed people in our life path to, like I said, that old lady, my grandmother, other people in the community, the sisters, everybody, place people in your path. So allow him to walk.